Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. This time we are actually not reacting. I've actually seen all the cards that have been released over the course of these today and yesterday. And I just want to talk about I'm gonna like go over them, talk about what they do, and then I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna rate them. I'm gonna do the YouTuber thing instead of just talking about them. Isn't that crazy? Well, welcome back. Tomorrow is supposed to be Eve's reveal, I believe. And if not, then we have to wait until like the tournament ends. But yeah, I believe they're gonna release it when the seasonal tournament ends. And then we'll just wait to be in business. I'll start creating decks with all these new cards at our disposal to see what decks I can come up with before the patch hits, and then we're off to the races. On a side note, I will probably be moving my setup. My parents are moving away on a trip, so like I have to settle back down in the house and and do things there. So like I'll probably have to move my setup there, and that might change some things. Might look a little interesting, but whatever. But whatever. We're here to talk about cards, so let's talk about cards. So first off, we have Evil Perfectionists. 4 mana, 4/4. The play effect is if you pick a card in hand, you can create 4 exact copies of it in your deck, and reduce their cost by 1. Alright, that's the first card. I'll go back I'll tell you what I think of it after I go through all the cards and I pull up my notepad. Alright, then we have Salvage Scrap, 2 mana burst speed. To play, discard up to 2 cards, create that many followers from your region that cost 1 more, and reduce their cost by 1. Ransom Riches, 1 mana burst speed. Manifest a follower you can afford. Swindle, 2 mana burst speed. Manifest a non-champion card from the opponent's hand. Plunder costs 1 less. Glorious Call, 6 mana burst speed, costs 2 or less. Costs 2 less for each different Ascended ally you've played this game. Manifest a card from the Emperor's deck with a cost 9 or less. Hey. Then we had this Sneezy Biggled. 4 mana Hawk Speed. Give allies +1/+1 this round. If they're created, give them +2/+2 instead. Breakneck Husk. We ignored this. We know what all these husks do. Rite of Passage. 2 mana focus speed. Manifest an allied landmark that has been destroyed this game and summon it. Drop the bomb. Deal 2 to a unit and summon a Scrappy Bomb. The Paper Tree. 2 mana landmark. When an ally with an attachment attacks, grant the ally +1 attack. And then we have Riptide Sermon. 6 mana slow speed. Deal 4 to an enemy unit, spawn 3, deal 2 to the enemy nexus. Alright, let's pull up my notepad. Alrighty, so we have the Evil 4-drop. 4-drop. We're going to do a little bit of a rating out of 10. I'm going to do my initial rating, and then we'll go talk about why I think that is the case. And for the Evil 4-drop, I give it a 4 out of 10. The reason why I give it a 4 out of 10 is because, well, I mean, it satisfies a base stat line. It's a 4 mana 4/4. Yeah. I mean, and that's good. It's good, but it's not competitive. The reason for that is I mean, you can see Sumpwump as a really good example. He's a 4 mana 4/4 as well. But he's infinitely more useful because he creates cards in your hand. This one creates cards in your deck, and yes, they cost one less, but you don't have access to those created cards immediately. And that's I think that's just the biggest downside that this card represents. You don't get access to your value that you created immediately. It's value set up for another turn, and it might not even be the best value because okay, so the best thing you could probably copy is Go Hard. This could see play in a Go Hard deck, and I say could. Sometimes you don't want to flood your deck with so many Go Hards all at once early on. Sometimes you don't want to do that. But yeah, it certainly presents it's an interesting card. I like the effect. But I think that like any of these create exact copies in your deck cards, they've all been notoriously weak. And I don't think this one's going to be much different. So 4 out of 10. All right. Now we have Salvage Script. Salvage. So what's with Salvage Scrap? Salvage Scrap is basically discard 2 trash cards in my hand in order to maybe get an upgrade. A card that costs 1 more. And then I get to play them for that still initial mana cost that I discarded for. So like you're spending 2 mana to get cards to discard 2 cards that get 1 mana more each. And I mean like this is an equal mana trade on the upfront. Like you're spending 2 mana to get 2 more mana of value. So it's a 2 for 2. But you don't control what you get, what followers you get, and I mean you can narrow it down by their regions, but like, and so that I guess this card is going to be very region dependent. Oh man, no. This card is going to be very region dependent. But yeah, I'm gonna be honest. This is wow. Oh. This is a 2 out of 10. Here's why it's 2 out of 10. You ain't gonna main deck this card. This is for meme decks. It's always going to be for meme decks. Can't convince me otherwise. This card is most useful when your deck is creating a bunch of crap that you don't want, but want to turn it into actual playable value. So you play this, you convert your trash into treasure, and you play it. But sometimes it's just trash into trash. So it's like, yeah. It requires a very specific deck to be useful, and even then it's not guaranteed to be useful. So 2 out of 10. Alright, next card up we have Ransom Riches. Alright. Ransom Riches. Now, given what we've said about the past 2 cards, what do you think my my assessment of this card would be. It's not too far off. I'm gonna rate this to be a 4 out of 10. I keep doing this. 4 out of 10. Another criminally underpowered card. Very similar to Salvage Script in that it requires a specific deck to be useful, but at least it's more useful because it's manifest. Alright? It is way more useful because it's manifest. If this wasn't manifest, I don't think you would ever run this card. Because if I'm remembering correctly, manifest is like the pick 3. Yeah, manifest is pick 3. So you can basically you get to choose a follower that you can afford. It's very similar to Talia's hero spell, the weaving or whatever. I forget what it's called. But it's more useful than her spell because it's not landmarks, it's followers, and there's a better pool for followers than landmarks. Let's just be honest here. So it's better in that case, but you would only really want to play this card in a deck that doesn't want to main deck minions. They want spell. You want it in a deck that, you know, plays spells to summon minions. A good example of that would actually kind of be Nami. This actually might not be bad in a Nami deck. If you have a bunch of mana, this could turn into a finisher. So maybe you run it as a one-off. It could see potential. I might actually change this to a 5 out of 10 now. Yeah, I'm changing this to a 5 out of 10. I think the key point here is that it could, like later on in the game, it could become a finisher. And early on in the game, it can be used for something for tempo. It's way more flexible than I'm giving it credit for. But it is still like you only want to run it in those decks that don't want to main deck minions. And that's that. Oh, did I really spell it like this? Let's continue on. Alright, Swindle. Swindle. We have a 2-mana burst speed card. And it's manifest a non-champion card. From the opponent's hand. How good do you think that is? Considering all the other hand interaction cards that Bilgewater has and has utilized, how good do you think this is? Not very good. It's not very good at all. Plan to cost 1 less makes it a little better. But like it's very much for it's for the meme archetype that is stealing your opponent's deck. It's that sort of archetype in Bilgewater. I mean, like, I give it credit for not being as annoying as those other cards, but it is still not great. There's a specific meme card that it concept that it fits into, but I don't know if you would even run it in that. I certainly wouldn't run it at base. So for me, this is a 3 out of 10. 3 out of 10 for Swindle. Alright, now we get Glory's Call. Now, this card very specifically works in Ascension type decks. getting a card from the Emperor's deck is no joke. And if you run 2 Ascended, which is pretty standard, this becomes a 2 cost. You spend 2 mana for getting a card from the Emperor's deck, which is pretty worth it, honestly. Like, even if you get the 2 mana 4/3 Fearsome that draws you a card, you're happy. You spent 2 mana, and then you spent another 2 mana. That's 4 mana. And I would argue that from the Emperor's deck, a 2 mana 4/3 Fearsome that draws you a card is worth it. With like the extra 2 mana up front. And that's like the lowest. That's the lowest one. All the ones above it have extremely powerful effects, and draw you. And many of them do draw you cards as well. So it's like, wow, that's pretty good. Now you would only really see it in, obviously, in an Ascended deck, but I think I wouldn't have it. The flavor's on point for this card, right? It's like, you want something from the Emperor's deck, and so you need Ascendants to make this card playable so you can actually utilize the card from the Emperor's deck effectively. It makes sense. It makes sense. Now, is it playable? I'd say yes, actually. I think the Emperor's deck is very powerful. And I believe that this card, in the right deck, maybe not even Mono Shrima, we'll see play. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Anything above a 5 out of 10 is playable in my book. It's either a 1 of or 2 of, it's playable. Alright. Now let's go to Sneezy Biggie Dust. Beagle Dust. Alright. I am no fan of Vandal City. This much is true. Do I think this card is indicative of everything I hate about Vandal City? Yes. I hate the swarm aspect of Vandal City. You see it a lot. I mean, I played it a lot. a lot with Poppy. So I got very familiar with it, and then I played against it a bunch, and I realized how toxic it was. It's pretty toxic. Now, the only thing that could make this card more cancer is to have it create another card for you. But it doesn't do that, thankfully. And to be honest, playing 4 mana focus to give your allies +1/+1/+1 is not really good at all. You're playing this card for the created give them +2/+2. That is what you're playing this card for. And yeah, it's not hard to get created followers or minions in Vandal City, but a lot of those cards that do create those cards are pretty trash. And I'm talking about the Owl Cats, obviously. A lot of the cards that spawn Owl Cats don't see any play whatsoever. However, I will say that a card like this could spawn such an archetype. And honestly, you would definitely pair it with Piltover, and you would give your, Poro Cannons, Poros, Elusives, +2/+2. That's great, right? Woo, Elusives! Yeah. This one gets a 5 out of 10 for me. I think it's borderline playable. Could be playable. In very specific decks. No one actually. I'll give it a 5.5. I think it's not stronger than Glory's Call, but it's definitely not on the same level as Ransom Riches. It's stronger than Ransom Riches. Oh boy. What have I done? There we go. Alright. I'm not going over husks right now, so we're going to go over Rite of Passage. Rite of Passage. My friend, 2 mana, focus, speed, manifest an allied landmark that has been destroyed this game, and summon it. This is an amazing card. Absolutely amazing. Landmarks needed this so much. Because when I see this card, you know what I actually think? I think, wow, they can actually now print more removal for landmarks. More effective removal for landmarks and not feel bad about it. Because, like, I mean, like, landmarks, like, as much there was little interaction to kill them, especially earlier on, there was also very limited things you could do to protect them. And that's the balance, right? You need to have both. You need to have a way to protect your landmarks, and you need a way to remove your landmarks. This interaction and this back and forth is very important for the game of Legends of Runeterra, and landmarks didn't have much of either. Now that they started to add a little bit more landmark removal, it makes sense that they printed a card like this. Being able to summon, like, oh, and some of those very expensive landmarks that you own, that you might build an entire deck around. You have Rite of Passage now. You can actually... I appreciate this card because not... Like, there's other good options, especially within the region, like Perseverium and the Mine, and obviously Time Bomb or Warlord's Palace. There are several things that this card is already good at picking up within its own region. But also, it provides us with a way to, like, let's say you have Noxus Arena, a card that no one has seen play. Super expensive. Have the strongest and weakest follower units strike each other at the start of each round. That card gets murked. 5 mana do nothing. You spend 2 mana to get it back. This allows you to play more into some of these more expensive landmarks, which I appreciate a lot. But that's not where the strength of this card lies, obviously. The strength of this card lies is things like getting Warlord's Palace again, and getting extra draws from Perseverium, and even clearing the board again with Blighted Ravine. That's where this card really shines. And for that reason, I give it a 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. Very, very, very good card. Speaking of good cards, drop the bomb. The bomb. Alright. So, 2 mana slow, deal 2 damage to a unit, and summon a Scrappy Bomb. And a Scrappy Bomb is obviously the 1 mana landmark that, when it's destroyed, deals 1 to the enemy nexus. So basically, there's 3 damage packed into a 2 mana spell. Not bad. It's slow, which is unfortunate, but consider the region it is and the regions you would use it in. Shurima doesn't have a lot of removal in general. And Vandal City also doesn't have like the 2 damage pings. They have the 1 mana. They have like the 1 damage pings. But they have a lot of conditional 2 damage pings. And they also don't really have the greatest removal. This, for the regions that you would play this in, is extremely solid. You would play this with Zigtalia. You would play this with Zillion Seraph. This patches up a very big weakness in those decks, which is the 2 mana damage point removal. And I think, while also, spawning a landmark. Spawning a landmark with spell mana is also really important to consider here. So, like, you can play a landmark and then play this and play another landmark, which can be huge for some those types of decks. Yeah, this, especially with the coming of Rite of Passage, oh my goodness, there's so much value to be had with some of these landmark cards that they printed. Yeah, and for that reason, this also gets a 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. Paper tree draft. Yeah, okay. So, paper tree. I don't think I have to explain much. Attachment attacks grant them +1 attack. 2 mana, do nothing. Works with specifically attachment attacks. And its big value outcome is granting them 1 attack. Yeah, this is the definition of a trap. You do not want to play this card ever. This card is trash. And it will remain as such, because I don't think we want attachment to be any stronger than it already is. Thank you, Papercraft Dragon. They should nerf that card to 6 mana. Alright. Moving on to the final card. Rip Tide. Come on. So, I make it no secret that I am a big Alawi fan. Just look at my channel, top art. Just look at a lot of my my taste. In my past videos when I played League, or even TFT, I like Alawi. Alawi is one of my favorite characters in the League of Legends universe, and I do definitely enjoy playing her in Legends of Runeterra because I am a mid-range fan, and she's a mid-range card. It's almost like she was made for me. Yeah, so what I'm saying is I have a lot of bias when it comes to this card, and I absolutely love it. 10 out of 10. This is my first 10 out of 10. I mean, not because it's strong. The 4 damage point is an important damage point, especially in a region that doesn't have a lot of removal, like Bilgewater. Like, we have a bunch of things that deal 1. We have a good amount of things that deal 2. We have a few things that deal 3, and we have barely anything that deals 4. Barely anything. This is a 6 mana deal 4, spawn 3. So you get you get the 3/3. All right. 3 mana, 3/3 is about worth 3 mana. And then you get the deal 4. That's also worth about 3 mana. Just look at Black Spear. And it's not conditional. Now, this deal 2 to the enemy nexus, I mean, it's a little bit out of, like, I don't know what exactly it's to do with this card. I don't mind it, though. I think it could have easily just been deal 1 to the enemy nexus, but maybe they just wanted it to be like exactly half of the deal 4 to make it more thematical or something like that. I don't know, but like the purpose of this deal 2 to the enemy nexus is almost certainly to be a plunder trigger. Almost certainly. Like I don't like. I don't see any other reason why it wouldn't be anything like that. And I appreciate that. This I think this fits into many of the aspects that Bilgewater wants. Um, like, and I'm looking outside of Spawn decks right now because like in Spawn decks this is good, but there's already a lot of tools for spawning in the deck, and that's mostly what this card would be used for, is for the spawning, because you know by 6 mana you're already going to end your opponent with Alawi is the answer. But outside of that, with just Bilgewater paired decks, this card literally can carry an entire match on its back. I This is such a good card. You probably like stick a one of it in Alawi decks at most, but outside of Alawi decks is where this card really shines. And of course, there's Lux Alawi. This is a 6 mana card, so it does work with that. We'll have to see how effective Lux Alawi ends up becoming with the inclusion of this card. I'm not really holding my breath, but hey, definitely a possibility. And I'm excited for those possibilities. So I believe, like, the strength of this card is probably 9 out of 10. But, like, guys, I'm a little bit biased. It's a 10 out of 10. Alright? I think it does so much for the region of Bilgewater on its own. It's almost sort of like how Tentacle Slam, like, completely changed how Bilgewater can be played with other regions, because it now provides decent removal. This is another decent removal card for Bilgewater. Like, you are going to be running Tentacle Slam and Riptide Sermon in decks that aren't Spawn decks. I guarantee it. And that is everything. I hope you all enjoyed my ratings, my opinions. I hope they were all entertaining. I hope to see you all into the next one. So, like, leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment. I'll see you in the next one. It changes every time. Bye bye.